Mwah. Beautiful engineering, 10 out of 10. I love that. False advertising.
We've tested a lot of Segway products on the Freshly Charged channel, but none of them have been off-road worthy until now. Today we have the brand new ZT3 Pro, which is an off-road worthy scooter, and we're excited to be one of the first people to test this out. So that's enough yapping, let's go ahead and get this unboxed. Box came in pretty decent condition. We did have one big tear out of it, but it looks like it's pretty good. This is the European box. Because we're in the US and they wanted to get us a scooter as quickly as possible, this was sent in different packaging than what you'll receive. Here's the charger. The scooter is a 46.8 volt, 12.75 amp hour battery. This charger has a max output of 53.6 volts and 3.9 amps output. This should take you just under 3.5 hours to charge from empty to full. It does look pretty beefy though, holy cow. No need to connect any wires. You should just be able to push them all in and should be good to go. That was easy, just 4 bolts and should be able to lift this out. It's 65.5 pounds, so not too heavy. Start speed. Brake priority, this is pretty cool, so you should be able to burn out the tires. Flash when braking. Turn signals currently have a sound. That's pretty obnoxious. And let's go ahead and turn that off. They also have a sleep mode. You can change the charging limit. We're here in America, so we're going to choose Imperial. A code lock where I lock it with the code, or I could also do it with an air lock where it unlocks when I get close with my phone. For the price point on the scooter, this has got to be some of the most tech we've ever seen on a scooter priced this low. So now that we have the app all figured out, the scooter's not beeping at us, let's go ahead and start with the walkthrough. You have some nice grips that are similar to the GT1 and GT2, turn signals built on the ends, and one cool feature that we noticed is this is a thumb throttle that can also act as a twist throttle. So you can use this as a thumb throttle, or you can also just twist the throttle like this. Mechanical brake levers, which is also connected to electric braking. There's a 3-inch LCD display, which is nice and crisp and easy to read in direct sunlight. 3 different speed modes. There's an eco, drive, and sport mode. And there's also a 4th mode, which isn't really a speed, it's a walk mode. At first I thought you had to press the throttle, but you don't even have to press the throttle. You can just push it and you can feel some assistance kick in. On the left control side, you have all the 4 buttons for the turn signals and the speed modes. An amazing thumb bell, very ergonomically placed, easy to hold onto your handlebars and still ring the bell. Right below the display, you have a light which has a little bit of adjustability, but not very much. Moving down, you have a hook for a bag or helmet. Folding mechanism. Yeah, it's got a double safety feature, so you have to press down on it to fold. This hook pops out of place. You're like, where does this thing hook into it? It pushes down and locks into place. Seems pretty rock solid. And then to get it out of place, you're just gonna push down, lift up, snaps right into place. Right below the folding mechanism, you have this X light, similar to what we saw on the Safari and Cyber e-bike. The front suspension, they call it dual telescopic suspension. Some nice rubber covers to protect the suspension, plastic fender, and an 11-inch tubeless pneumatic tire with off-road treading. And then on this side, this is the smallest brake disc I've ever seen on a scooter. It's a 120mm brake disc with mechanical disc brakes. So moving to the frame, you have this really cool design. It's metal frame with plastics over it. This is a carbon steel frame with ASA Thermoplastics. Charge port in the front. So you have the silicone running on the deck, but on the rear it is just a harder plastic on the kick plate. The kick plate, there is some weird thing that says extension port. We are super curious what this is. So we're gonna try to pop this off. Not sure what that extension port is for. So if you're smarter than us, let us know in the comments below. In the rear, they say it's a rear spring suspension. It's covered with metal. Very unique design. I'm not sure if that's to protect the bushing that's behind there. First time we've ever seen that on a scooter, but Segway, they're really pioneers in the design for personal electric vehicles. In the rear, you have another 11 by 3-inch tubeless pneumatic tire. There's a 650 watt motor with a peak output of 1600 watts. That should give us a top speed of 25 miles per hour for the US version. There's a rear fender with a light built into it and also place for a license plate if you're in a place that needs licensing. Another 120mm brake disc with mechanical disc brakes. So I did want to get some quick measurements. The handlebars on here are almost 25.5 inches wide. The handlebar height compared to the deck 42 inches high. The deck size, about 18 inches long. And then the width of the deck is 7.5 inches.
Clearance height, you're sitting at about 7 inches.
This kick plate is really massive though. Look at this kick plate. The bottom of the kick plate is about 8 inches long and 8 inches wide at the base and tapers off to about 4 inches up top. Overall, it's one of the sweetest scooters I've ever seen and the most technology I've seen on an electric scooter. But it really just depends on how this is gonna ride. So we're gonna go ahead and get this freshly charged, take it for a spin, tell you what we love about it, what could be improved, and who should buy the Segway ZT3 Pro.
All right, the ZT3 Pro is freshly charged. We're gonna go ahead, since it has a full battery, do a top speed test. We've got the Draggy hooked up. Boost mode is on. We'll tell you about that here in a second, but let's see what that top speed hits.
According to the display, it definitely hit 25 miles per hour. We'll see what the Draggy says because the proof is in the pudding. We hit 25 miles per hour on the Draggy. The acceleration was surprisingly pretty decent. 0 to 10 was 1.57 seconds. 0 to 15 was 2.82 seconds. 0 to 20 was 4.49 seconds. And 0 to 25 took 9.79 seconds. So the initial acceleration was pretty decent. Getting it up to 25 did take a little bit more time, but we'll show you there is a boost mode on here, which we didn't even know existed until we were messing with the app. So the boost function is just basically saying that it has a stronger starting acceleration. All you need to do is hold down on the brake and press the throttle at the same time. After 3 seconds, you'll see boost show up on the display.
Awesome. Now, all that speed and power is no good if you can't stop. So I want Andrew, he's gonna go 20 miles per hour. We're gonna do a brake test. And when you hit this crack right here, I want you to slam on the brakes and we're gonna see how long it takes him to stop. We also have the ZT3 Pro in standard electric braking, which is the strongest level. So just so you guys know, strongest level of electric braking paired with these mechanical disc brakes, and Andrew weighing in at about 130 pounds to 200 pounds, somewhere in there.
Somewhere in there.
Okay, not too bad. Hit that 20 miles per hour.
16 feet to stop from 20 miles per hour to 0. I did notice that the brakes weren't super strong, so I'm gonna mess with the brakes a little bit to see if we can get a little bit stronger stopping power. What I did was I twisted these to have more tension, so now the brake levers feel like they're a lot more tight. About 12 feet to stop from 20 miles per hour to 0, so a lot better that time.
And Andrew, how did these slightly off-roadish tubeless tires feel? I heard them skid a little bit.
They're definitely a harder compound, so you can tell they're not quite as soft as some other tires, but they didn't have any issues with the gripping power on the road. For now, based off of what I was feeling, not terrible.
All right, and before we talk about pros and cons, let's do one more test. There's a little hill that we know is 19 degrees. They advertise this to be able to climb 25 degrees, so let's go check that out next.
Who's that bunny hopping around?
Look at that. You see that?
Yep, I was doing the same thing. With the rake control, this steering pull should go through the center axle bolt. I'm not saying that I hate it, but I can already feel there's some weird type of oscillations when you try to turn real quickly, just like Dalton was doing at slower speeds. Yeah, there you go.
I really can't tell if I like the Segride design. It feels weird. I don't know. I haven't made up my opinion yet, but I got a feeling it's not a good one.
So Dalton's gonna test this out, 19 degrees. The box says 25 degrees. Will it climb it? Is it going? It's trying to crawl. Okay, that was tough.
So that is a full battery, sport mode, boost mode, and I weigh about 155 pounds. I really wanted to do this. Like I wanted to do this. We've had other scooters do it, but
every other scooter that's done this is a dual motor scooter.
Yes.
So this is a single motor scooter, but I do ask for correct marketing specs just because some people live in crazy hilly areas like San Francisco.
Rolling start.
Come on, baby.
He's coming, he's climbing. Oh, he stops.
Oh, false advertising.
It's going up it. Just without a rider.
Maybe their test was with no rider on it. Yeah, without a rider, it can climb this hill. So there are a lot of things that I love about this scooter, but I'm gonna let Andrew start out. Andrew, what do you like most about the Segway ZT3 Pro?
For me, it's really just the aesthetics of the scooter. It looks awesome for the price point.
I've actually got a long list of things, so I'm just gonna knock out a couple of the small ones here. Starters, this little folding tab right here for the stem to click into. Mwah. beautiful engineering, 10 out of 10. I love that. I also think this charge port right here seems very water sealed, and I love that they put it up here and not on the side. If it's on that bottom end, you can try and jump a curb and it can just really mess up that charge port, so I like the placement of that. The front headlight and the display both are super awesome. I think the headlight, the X, is very aesthetically pleasing, as Andrew was talking about. It looks cool, but it also kind of gives you a presence on the street. When you pair it with this one up here, I feel like it's decent for night riding. And then this display is just very bright and crisp. It's super easy to read in direct sunlight. It's super bright outside. We're not having a problem reading it at all. And I can go on and on, but I'm gonna let Andrew get off a couple more points.
The display, I have polarized sunglasses on. I can read it perfectly fine. A lot of displays get washed out with polarized sunglasses. He mentioned the charge port being water resistant, but what I love about this charger is that it's omnidirectional. You can just plug it in. You don't have to find the one spot that it has to go in. The technology in this scooter is just unreal. You've got traction control, you have auto locking, so you can lock it with the keypad or use your phone to lock and unlock it. Flash charge technology where you can get 10 miles of range in 30 minutes. You can adjust the acceleration curve. You can also track the scooter with Apple Find My. You can schedule charging. So here in Colorado, if I charge my scooter during the day, it's gonna cost me twice as much. So rather than me having to remember when to charge my scooter, I can just plug it in, schedule it to start at non-peak hours, and I'm good to go.
I'm also a really huge fan of this twist throttle, thumb throttle design. A lot of times I love a thumb throttle and I love a twist throttle. So the ability to choose which one I want to use, it's genius. And I'm kind of surprised we haven't seen this on other scooters.
The turn signal lights are also super bright as well. Some of the brightest that we've seen on an electric scooter.
I also like how they are built in here so that if this scooter falls on the side, it's not going to break them. Some people want to put them on the end, but this has a rubber cap, so it's not going to break if this scooter falls and hits the ground.
Having this hook right here, I love it too. Look, now I can go for a ride, lock up my scooter, and I have a place to put my helmet at. So we've been reviewing a lot of Dualtron scooters lately, and the fenders have been completely trash. They rattle, they shake, they make a lot of noise. Well, this one is nice and rigid, and it also has support arms. And then the suspension on the scooter for the price point is pretty good.
Yeah, and this Segride front piece here that pairs with the suspension, although I still haven't made up my mind on it, I will say it is really easy to pop that front wheel up if you want to do some wheelies or tricks, which is super fun.
And then the last thing I love about this is this rigid design for the steering pole. It doesn't have any weird creaks right now, and it doesn't flex. As you can see, it's not flexing at all. That movement that you're seeing is just the suspension, but a lot of times the suspension flex with the steering pole is like back and forth on some of these scooters. This one is pretty rock solid. And I thought that was my last one, but actually this hook for locking it when it's folded, it has this clip and it just locks into place.
I think overall, when it comes to likes, we just need a round of applause for the engineers, software engineers. At Segway, you'll need a raise. This is fantastic. A lot of great features and designs that you don't see on a lot of other scooters, but need to be on every scooter, in my opinion. So although we're liking it, we're gonna keep riding and tell you what we think could be improved on the Segway ZT3 Pro.
I also forgot to mention my favorite thing is the price. Right now, they have a pre-order special until October 21st for $949 for the scooter. I can't think of another scooter that offers all the tech that the scooter offers for that price point. The regular price will be $12.99 after the pre-sale, but for $949, it's a pretty sweet deal.
This is Lil Champion, our favorite jump in this park. Okay, he's gonna give it another try. This Segride suspension, you know, fork system in the front. We've tested hundreds of scooters, never felt anything like this. And we keep saying we don't know how we feel about it just because it's kind of cool in the way it feels, but then like he's going to hit this jump for a third time and the preloading just feels weird. So I don't know, by the end of the video, I'll have my thoughts on it.
Oh, you did pretty good.
I talked about how the front end feels like it wants to come up easy, which is fun for wheelies. But then when you're going to hit a jump, that coming up feels really sketchy because it feels like when you're in the air, it's trying to like flare back on you.
Whoa, that's pretty good. Yeah, see, the key is don't preload it. Ergonomically, this might be an interesting design from the front end to where it makes jumping easier.
Maybe we're just not as smart as Segway. They figured something out that we just haven't put together. This is
maybe we're not as smart as 100 engineers working at Segway.
Maybe.
I'm just gonna try to ride off of it this time.
You got it. Just one more jump, he says. I think he's having fun. We've hit this jump so many times now. The sun is going down.
Yeah, better.
That's what it was.
Yeah, I would have never thought that I could actually jump farther on a scooter without preloading it.
Segway chef engineers, we smell what you're cooking. Don't preload the jump. We got it. All right, on to our cons. We're getting there, sorry. All right, so although we think it's super cool, it's not perfect. Andrew, what do you not like or think could be improved on the Segway ZT3 Pro?
Well, the biggest thing is you keep hearing that beep, like an 80% power. 1, 2. Well, what you're seeing is I started sliding. There's this annoying park mode that we cannot get off of the scooter. You can adjust all the different settings on there except for removing the park mode. Maybe you're smarter than us, but we have not been able to figure it out.
For me, 25% hill climbing test, and looking on this sticker here, it says tested with a 165-pound rider. I'm lighter than that, so that's just false advertising. Come on guys, get it together. That's what YouTubers are for. We test it, we see what's real and what's not, and that is not real.
The fact that you have so much room on this tire space to increase the brake disc size, they could have made it at least 140, and they even could have fit a 160mm brake disc on here. So I just don't know why they chose 120mm.
And Andrew, let me ask you, it stops very well, so why would you want a bigger disc brake?
A bigger disc brake helps with heat dissipation. So smaller brake discs can actually warp over time because there's just so much heat being transferred because they're so tiny. The other reason is there's not as much stopping power because the brake disc isn't as big.
And the top speed of 25 miles per hour, it hit the top speed and it's fun, but I kind of would have expected more. There's a lot of really price-friendly scooters out here close to this price range that can go 35 miles per hour. So I kind of would have liked to see a little more juice out of it.
This front-facing light, you can adjust the angle slightly. I wish that I could adjust it a little bit more because it's surprisingly pretty decently bright and has a decent throw, but because I can't adjust the angle, I'm pretty much stuck at where it's pointing at. I would have loved for this kick plate to also have silicone over it. It does get a little bit slippery. I haven't even had this in wet conditions, but I can only imagine how slippery this will be when it's raining outside.
I have finally come to my decision on the Segride front system here, and I think I like it and don't like it. It's nice and it feels good. When we're riding and hitting jumps that you don't preload, it's actually pretty cool. I think the one thing I don't like about it is at lower speeds, whenever you're hitting the throttle or taking turns, it feels a little squirrely. Overall, I think it is a pro. Just know that at those lower speeds, it may be a little sketchy if you're a newer rider.
The battery size is relatively small. It's a 46.8 volt, 12.75 amp hour system, so it's only 597 watt hours. They said at full speed, you should expect a range of about 18 miles, but I think that's even overstating it a little bit. Off-roading, these tires grip extremely well. However, when I go to power slide, I can definitely feel the knobbies a little bit. I would have liked for the rounded profile to be a little bit smoother to where I'm not feeling that when I go power sliding.
Now, if you've watched the channel, you know that even though we have all these complaints, that's actually not much. This scooter is pretty awesome. So we're gonna keep riding, and while we ride, we'll tell you who we think should buy the Segway ZT3 Pro.
If you're fine with 25 mile per hour top speed, you're not gonna find a scooter with this much tech, aesthetically pleasing, for underneath the pre-order price of $949.
Yes, I think Segway is like Apple and Dualtron is like Samsung. Because Segway is Apple, it's high quality, it looks nice, it's very user-friendly, and for that price point, I totally agree. I think this is one of the best options if you're looking to get a premium scooter. Make sure to check out our full written review at freshlycharged.com, and when you ride, wear your safety gear.